So there's a new UN report that also says there was a lot of sexual violence. They stopped short of saying it's systematic. They stopped short of saying it was a Hamas-like dictate, go do sexual violence, go commit rape. They stopped short of saying that, but they do say there was a lot of sexual violence on October 7th. But if you actually dig apart what's in this report, like if you get deep into it, it is amazing the admissions of what you learn. It was written by Pramila Patten at the UN. And in the report, she admits that all her information comes directly from the Israeli regime. Here's a quote from the report. As a result of the aforementioned challenges, it must be noted that the information gathered by the mission team was in a large part sourced from Israeli national institutions. This is due to the absence of UN entities operating in Israel. So because Israel forbids the UN, stonewalls the UN, this report from the UN only comes almost exclusively from Israeli national institutions, the government. It continues to say, as well as the lack of cooperation by the state of Israel with relevant UN bodies with an investigation mandate. She says that they got their information from the Israeli state, which is the opposite of where you should get any information if you're doing a legitimate investigation. She then claims in the beginning that she will verify information later, even though she had admitted before, and it's in her official mandate, that she has no investigative powers or abilities. She admits it deep in the report multiple times that she's not able or allowed to investigate. It's not part of her mandate to investigate. She just takes things at face value. She says Hamas, however, has denied claims of harm against civilians, including the commission of rape. Given the mission was not investigative, we did not investigate, it did not gather information and or draw conclusions on attribution of alleged violations to specific armed groups. Such attribution would require a fully fledged investigative process. So again, she hides it deep in the report, but we're not investigating. We're just taking whatever the Israeli national institutions tell us. She then goes on to quote from the Zaka hoaxers. So this Zaka it's kind of like the white helmets in that it's known for hoaxes, it's known for lies, and yet it's taken at face value by many Western institutions, by Western media. It's an orthodox kind of medic group. They've been shown to literally make a lot of things up. They're the ones that were behind much of the beheaded babies, garbage, and various other accusations that are proven to be completely false. In the UN report, it says these included limited survivor and witness testimony, limited forensic evidence due to the large number of casualties and dispersed crime scenes in context of persistent hostilities, the loss of potentially valuable evidence due to the interventions of some inadequately trained volunteer first responders, the prioritization of rescue operations, identification, burial of the deceased, etc. And they note this is referring to the Zaka pedophile rape cult. That's what they're calling it. But they've been proven to be liars over and over and over again. They made up the 40 beheaded babies hoax, other lies. Extensive reporting has shown they intentionally contaminated these crime scenes. They literally pulled clothes off of corpses to make it look like there had been sexual violence. They then note that she later admits no video or photographic evidence of rape exists. She says in the UN report, in the medical legal assessment of available photos and videos, no tangible indications of rape could be identified. Therefore, the mission team concluded that the circumstantial indicators, like the position of the corpse and the state of clothing, should also be considered when determining the occurrence of sexual violations. So she says there's no photographic evidence. And she talks about getting evidence from the Zaka hooligans who have been proven to be making all this stuff up. She says in the report, it must be noted that witnesses and sources with whom the mission team engaged adopted over time an increasingly cautious and circumspect approach regarding past accounts, including in some cases retracting statements made previously. Some also stated to the mission team that they no longer felt confident in their recollections. They're talking about how many of the stories have changed over time. The mission team was unable to establish the prevalence of sexual violence and concludes that the overall magnitude, scope, and specific attribution of these violations would require a fully fledged investigation. Again, saying she doesn't actually have the ability to investigate. She then even notes that what Israel has presented as evidence of Hamas dictating sexual violence It's this piece of paper that was supposedly found on dead Hamas militants that Israel claimed says to take your pants off or something of the sort. The UN has now decided this was manufactured and this was fake. She said it is possible, while it is possible that digital evidence may have been posted and then removed from the official channels and social media profiles, possibly due to concerns by various groups that it may be incriminating, it is the view of the mission team that had clear digital evidence of sexual violence or orders to commit sexual violence been circulated in the mainstream, it would have likely been discovered given the volume of information. It's basically an admission that the Israeli government has made this stuff up. And they make the point, the poster makes the point that if you're going to admit that the Israeli government made up this so-called dictate from Hamas to use sexual violence, if you're going to admit that that was made up, then why are you taking the Israeli government's word on everything else? You've just said that they literally lie about this. Anyway, you're welcome to read the full UN report, but of course, the mainstream media doesn't report all of what I just brought to you. They report just the headline, sexual violence on October 7th, without reporting what it actually says. That if you dig down in the report, it's coming from known hoaxers, from people who were known to be lying about this. And they've said that there's no video or photographic evidence. I think a lot of people who are doing good at doing a great job debunking this garbage coming from the UN, coming from Israel, etc., coming from the New York Times, doing a great job. But two things I just like to add is, one, this is not to say that there couldn't be evidence of sexual violence somewhere that eventually comes out. But right now, bullshit. We've gotten bullshit from it. I'm not saying it could never happen. I'm just saying this is where we are. The second thing, which I always like to highlight, is in some regards, in some aspects of this, it wouldn't matter. Because even if all of the most horrific stories you could ever imagine about October 7th, all of the propaganda, all the lies were all true, you still can't commit genocide. Yes, it would change the way we talk about October 7th, but you still can't commit genocide. You still can't have mass punishment of the Palestinian people. You still can't kill 30 some odd thousand people in 150 days, 70% of them women and children. In that regard, it wouldn't fucking matter. It's so maddening to just see people believing this on face value. People just see a New York Times headline and they run off with it, and they never bother to see what the evidence was, where it came from.